Aloha everyone. This is our Hawaiian Volcanoes summary for December 12th, 2024. Kīlauea's earthquake rates have decreased this past week to less than half of what they were for the previous 2 weeks. And this corresponds to a slowdown in earthquakes, mostly in the East Rift Zone, as there's continuing events happening mostly in the Summit and South Caldera areas here. As you can see in the map of earthquakes this past week, a lot fewer earthquakes near the eruption site between Nāpau and Makaopuhi craters, and in the Upper East Rift Connector by Maunaulu as well. We do continue to have south flank earthquakes ongoing as the volcano continues to adjust, with the flank moving seaward to all the changes happening upslope, as well as the deeper earthquakes from Pahala feeding from the hotspot to the volcano, shown in blue here. Looking more closely at the ground surface of Kīlauea, this is a ground tilt at the summit and East Rift over the past month. The summit is in blue and the East Rift is in green. So the summit over the past month has had a net increase in tilt, but really over the last week, it's been a net decrease, in fact. So much more stable at the summit with decreasing ground tilt. And you can see here at Puʻuʻōʻō crater on the East Rift, we're also having decreasing ground tilt. So a lot quieter than the previous 2 weeks. If we do go to the Maunaulu area in Upper East Rift Connector, we do see there's some still slight inflation happening there. And this is also reflected in a South Caldera on the sand tilt graph, which is not shown here. But if we continue further down the rift to Puʻuʻōʻō, we see that while Puʻuʻōʻō itself has been deflating, we have seen a signal from the tangential component here that has occasionally shown inflation of that reservoir near the Upper East Rift Connector. You can see here it's risen a bit over the first part of the last month, but also over the last week has been entirely stable, and if anything, a net decrease in tilt there. So really much quieter overall. And the final piece that supports this is our GPS measurement, north to south across the caldera. This is for the last year. If I zoom in on the right side here, you can see that the caldera has switched from extending to contracting. And this change in and of itself is not unusual. You can see it's happened several times in the recent past, but it does show a little adjustment happening different than what's happening in the previous 2 weeks. So that's the story on Kīlauea. We await the next development and we'll see what comes next. Mauna Loa is also quiet. Here are earthquakes at the summit over the last week. There's very few to speak of, scattered across the map here. If we look across the last year, these are earthquake depths versus the last year of time. So here we are on the right side of this is the last month or so. What you see is a very similar pattern to what we've seen for most of the previous year. Right? If anything, we've had slightly different pattern in the deeper earthquakes, and perhaps an increase in some of these events month to month, but overall earthquake rates are still quite low on Mauna Loa. And similarly to Kīlauea, and perhaps this is related, we are seeing a slowdown in Mauna Loa's caldera extension as well. So once again, this is north and south across the caldera, but this is Mauna Loa instead. And here you see once again a slight contraction happening, which likewise has happened at other times during the previous year, all on a temporary basis. So we also await Mauna Loa to pick back up. This is all within the greater pattern of it refilling following its 2022 eruption. And that's our Hawaiian Volcano summary for this week.